High school teachers of Reddit, what is the one thing that you want your students to know that you'd never tell them in person? Your parents are literally the worst part of my job. 9/10 times when you have it a student acting different and you meet their parents for the first time, it explains a lot. Often everything. Yes, I put you in a group with the kid you have a crush on intentionally. I'm stuck here with you 180 days a year, I want to see some drama. My food and nutrition teacher started off the semester telling us not to question her seating, grouping decisions because at that time she had 5 known adult couples that got married specifically because they met in her class. She showed us pictures of her at their wedding. As far as I know, she had a 0% divorce rate with half of the couples being together at least 20 years. I'm not saying I liked fights in my classroom. I'm just saying I might have taken a little longer to react when the jerk student bully was finally getting what was long overdue. Also, thank you to my students who would have my back when they'd kindly remind the class that I exist. Hey, y'all motherfuckers, shut the fuck up. Mr. is trying to teach. I had to look a little disappointed. But I appreciate you and I thank you for being my voice. I am no longer a teacher, but I remember several days that I felt lazy and wanted to give the class the day off. I never did because I knew the teacher's pet would rat me out. Sometimes even the teachers don't like the teacher's pet. I'd let you get away with so much more if you were actually a decent person who treated others with kindness and respect. Assholes rarely get the benefit of doubt or indifference. Absolutely this. Kids would be surprised by how much freedom they could get if they all tried to be nice to each other. You can be unsuccessful at school but successful in life. I pretend that it is important for you to do well in my subject, but in reality you'll most probably find your niche in life and be reasonably content or hopefully extremely happy. You might hate maths, English, science, but turn out to be the most amazing parent, artist, carpenter or even a mathematician, playwright or researcher. You might get the lowest scores in class and end up being the most successful of your peers. I feign annoyance, anger, disappointment. I reluctantly phone your parents, give you detentions, or write up critical reports. I have to. It's my job. If you do well in my subject then that's great, but if you don't then just relax. We can't all be good at everything. Oh, and do you think you hate exams, tests and homework? Your mild dislike of the work is a mere candle flame compared to the hatred that burns like a million suns, that I feel when I have to fucking mark it. The weed smell doesn't magically disappear between the parking lot and my classroom. How do I smell, bro? You're good, me? You're good too. Do my eyes look red? If your parents email a teacher and argue with them, the whole staff knows. At least at my school. Yes, and when there is a parent who is particularly awful to a teacher, the teacher will warn all of the kids' future teachers before they even sit in their assigned seat on the first day of school. If I know your name by the 3rd day of a new school year, that means you're probably an asshole. Or, you have a really weird name. Or it's a very small school. Or I had your brother, sister, and they were either really awesome or extremely terrible. That we have much better hearing than you assume. We just choose our battles as it pertains to inappropriate comments. And sometimes I pretend not to see that thing you did just because I too found it humorous, and speaking to you about it would only result in me cracking up. Edit. Well, this really blew up. I am barely seeing people's reactions to it. I appreciate all the responses. A lot of great comments. And I can definitely share stories for those interested. Haha. It's so funny when they think they're getting away with something, but no, it's just near the end of the day and you're too tired to deal with it. I freaked a student out a few months ago. As he passed me out the door I leaned down and whispered, "Don't make paper airplanes in my class anymore." He had no clue I'd seen, went white as a sheet and left. He hasn't done it since, yet. Or he got better at hiding them. When you think you are being genius by getting me to talk about random things at the beginning of class instead of teaching, I'm really allowing it to happen. BC, I don't have enough planned to cover a full class. My favorite high school teacher, he taught history, confessed on the last day of my senior year that he always started class by talking about something completely random because he knew none of us were ready to pay attention right when class was supposed to start. Had no idea. It was a really good strategy that made the transition into the lesson a lot less jarring. I had an American history teacher that did the exact same thing. He was awesome. My history teacher did something similar as well. He also threw markers and other mostly harmless objects at students that fell asleep in his class. Needless to say, he was awesome too. That my students are the reason why I am second-guessing having my own kids. My students are the reason I don't have kids. That it's just as weird for me as it is for you when we bump into each other in public. Edit. Instead of responding to all, I'll tell my story here. I went on vacation with my then GF, and bumped into a student 3 states over. We both kind of shook our heads no at each other, and kept walking, silently agreeing to not address it. I saw this same student again 2 months later, during the summer, at a concert where they were underage drinking. We just shook our heads at one another again, keeping that same silent agreement. I saw this same student 4 more times during the summer entirely by accident. It was never discussed. I saw my English teacher at the grocery store one. We made eye contact and I nodded. He nodded back. We kept walking. Said nothing about it the next day. Never brought it up. That's proper procedure. One of my high school Spanish teachers came to view my parents' guest house that was for rent. I made damn sure I went out and said hola to her. I couldn't have my Spanish teacher living 20 feet from my house, even if she was one of the hot teachers. I hate the texts as much as you do, but everyone just shrugs when I suggest changing them up. I'm sorry they made us keep that awful after book on the list. I genuinely offered to buy them all back from students so I could burn the waste of time that they are. One of the most valuable lessons I can teach you is to fake looking busy. If we're supposed to be working on an assignment or reading or whatever, and you see me coming your way, at the least have a piece of paper on your desk and a pen in your hand and some shit on your paper, and then I won't bother you. If you have nothing going on and can't even be bothered to make it look like you're trying, I'm heading your way. This lesson will be invaluable with eventual bosses someday. My welding teacher told me something similar about when he was on job sites. If the boss hasn't told you to do anything, then get the biggest trench you can find and walk around looking worried. The longest he's ever done that for was 1.5 hours. One day you're going to come across people who are not being paid to tolerate you, and all of a sudden life is going to become considerably more difficult. I feel like they should be told this in person. Yeah, I would pay to have this engraved on the threshold of my old high school TBH. If you're going to eat in class, stop staring at me while you're doing it. You're ratting yourself out. Edit. Thank you everyone for sharing your stories. I literally laughed my ass off a couple of times. I've already answered this in a comment. The reason the students aren't allowed to eat is because those are the school rules. I have no say in the matter and I won't jeopardize my job for it, especially because it's my first year working there and my supervisor pops in once in a while. Secondly, I do allow water, no drinks allowed either, and I let them finish their meal outside before the second bell goes off. Sometimes they even offer me some. And if they are truly hungry, they know this. They can just ask me in the beginning of class to eat outside. I also don't punish them when I catch them, I just politely ask them to put it away and have a laugh. Telling them angrily will just piss them off. See, I'm not a complete monster.